What's up, everyone? This is Nate and Charlie with Good Morning Liberty. A little bit different intro today, of course, because of the awful news that happened yesterday with Charlie Kirk. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I typically, I'm just speaking for myself, know almost exactly what I'm going to say during a show. And not only do I not know what I'm about to say, I think Charlie probably feels the same way right now. I couldn't even think of anything to put into a post last night on our X, which is fine. But I got no idea what's about to happen right now.
I don't know what to say either. It's you talk about sombering times. This definitely feels like one of those. And God, I'm just getting emotional off the bat. I don't know why I feel so emotional about this situation, but I feel like as we're talking about it, I feel myself welling up.
I did the same thing when I was just doing the intro just then.
Yeah, this is tough. It's almost like we lost a friend, even though we technically never met him in person. But for some reason that connection is there. I think for me, obviously, and probably, for Nate too, I'm not, I lost a brother in Christ. And I think Nate and I were talking about it before the show. One thing that we were trying to figure out is like, why do we feel this way about this person? Because all sorts of dads die. And of course, I'm not comparing Charlie Kirk to Jesus, but if you look at Charlie Kirk's life, what we know about it, and he's not a perfect person, made plenty of mistakes. Of course, he was the first to admit that many times. But it really seems like a truly innocent person was assassinated. And we can talk about the attempts on Trump's life. That would have been horrific, obviously. I think we would have felt obviously sad and everything like that. But this almost feels like the person who deserved it the least got it. And I think that's what is so gut-wrenching about this entire situation.
You see so many awful people in politics, people who just are saying things for clicks or who will go where the wind blows or whatever, and don't really have any morals or values that they stick to other than trying to obtain power, things like that. And I think that's like what it is about Charlie Kirk, is that he seemed like a real guy, a guy who stuck to his own principles and morals, and like a genuine guy. And so when you think about who is going to get assassinated by someone, like you just said, it's that's not the guy. Not that there is a guy, but it's like not that one, And I didn't listen to his show very much. I clicked on when I saw him streaming on X, and I was sitting here doing research and stuff. I would click on his show and listen to it. We disagreed on a lot of stuff. We both voted for the same guy in the last election. That's about the thing that we have the most in common. We spoke at a TPUSA event at a college here in Nashville one time. That wasn't, Charlie didn't ask us to come speak there. It's people who ran that chapter of TPUSA. The work that he was doing around on college campuses and organizing young people is very important. That's something that the right has lacked in for a long time. Was doing very important work there. It's tough to know what to say right now. We can try and report some of the facts that there are on the ground. I think we maybe just came up with why this is affecting the two of us that much. And I'll say some people in my life didn't expect, like knew about it, but you know, like Lacey last night, it took her a bit to realize that like I was upset, you know, and that's not her fault. You know, she just she didn't know, and other people in the same way. And I've been trying to figure out why for a bit. Why was I crying in my car this morning? That's crazy. And told Charlie the sequence of it. I told Charlie right here the sequence of events. And you know, I got up and in bed I was watching videos on X and posts on X and stuff like that. And you guys know the kind of stuff you can see on there this morning. And so I was like, oh, I got to get off here. But I'm going to turn on the news and see if they found out. You know, I turned it on. It was a minute before they started their 9/11 as it happened video. And so I was like, well, I'll take a break from the Charlie Kirk stuff and I'm going to watch a replay of 9/11.
Yeah. Let me switch from one traumatic experience to the next. And then you called BetterHelp.
Yeah. And so I was like, I went all the way through that. And then, which by the way, today is 9/11. It's been 24 years and that's crazy. Remember it like it was yesterday. And there's a lot of people that are too young to remember that. Which is crazy that it's been that long since that happened. I switched from the 9/11 as it happened to, I was like, I'm going to watch Good Morning Football on NFL Network. That's a nice, fun, lighthearted show. I watch it most mornings, depending on how the Cowboys did the week before. And they open up the show with somber talking about Charlie Kirk. So I was sitting in my car before I go to physical therapy this morning crying. I'm like, well, I got to stop so I'm not walking into the building crying right now. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to think about why, think about what that means, and to let it out. That's fine. And try and figure out how we're going to move forward as a country, because this has the potential to go in many different ways right now. And many of those ways are not good.
Yeah, political violence, true political violence, and I think I've seen some people talk about it. It's not something that you want in America. I can promise you that. I think, you know, the Fed Haters Club is saying a lot of things I think I've definitely thought about, in the fact that another thing that makes this very difficult is agree or disagree with what Charlie Kirk stood for in some things. His number one thing was traveling around and giving microphones to people that vehemently disagreed with him and wanted his death a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. You can watch video after video after video of people disrespecting and humiliating and cursing at him. And his whole goal was just to, and he stated this multiple times, but his whole goal was he felt called by God to go around and tell the truth in the public square. And did that to the best of his ability. Not only do we recognize that, but the market recognized it as Turning Point USA. I mean, Charlie Kirk at 25 years old was speaking at the RNC for Trump's first presidency. Mm-hmm. That's insane. As a kid, to just have this much work ethic and enthusiasm. And then the one thing that keeps getting me, and this is not a knock on Nate, but for those of you that have kids, I think you'll especially understand the video of his daughter running up to him on that Fox News is just so gut-wrenching to know that his daughter may not understand what's going on now, but eventually, you know, her growing up without a father, it's just, it's hard to say. Like, I think it's like the least deserving person got the worst, And I feel like that's really a struggle to comprehend. I know yesterday, Brittany asked me several times, like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I was really quiet. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I think I spent most of yesterday in denial, like disbelief. I was first stage of grief for sure. I saw the video, and for the first time ever, I think I text Nate first. I was like, Charlie Kirk just got shot, and likely he's dead. At the time, we didn't know. And so, of course, I just happened to pop on Twitter, which I never do.
Yeah.
And
I held out hope for a while, by the way.
And I was trying to. The video I saw was a far shot, and I thought it looked like it hit him in the chest because I saw the shirt move, and I'm like, okay, I wonder if it missed his heart. Mm-hmm. No indication yet. And then I saw the close-up video, and I was like, oh God. It looked like he died instantly, and I think yesterday I just spent a lot of time not really knowing what was wrong, but I was quiet so much that I think Brittany spent about half of Parker's soccer practice last night asking me, are you okay? Are you mad at me? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just quiet. I think I was just in denial that this could happen to someone like that. There's been many assassination attempts and successes on presidents. So I think, like I said earlier, we would have been outraged and shocked and saddened if they would have, accomplished that with Trump. But it's like people do attempt to assassinate presidents all around the world. So I don't think I've ever even read a story about someone assassinating a kid on a college campus. Obviously, we know about, Martin Luther King Jr., and these were all older folks, though.
Yeah,
for the most part.
I do feel a difference. Like you just said, people do try to kill presidents, and we can't make any justifications, but presidents and people in government, they have power over others. They can affect people's lives. They can order military strikes. They can kill people. They can do things that all sorts of people disagree with. Charlie Kirk was just someone who was out there talking about the things that he believed and asking people to come up and debate him, and being very respectful and civil most of the time, and debating those people with almost a smile on his face the whole time, in the way that like Milton Friedman would debate people on economics with a smile on his face. He was very, almost always polite and civil with people, more so than they probably deserved most of the time. And this is a guy that was out there doing what we all should be doing. Libertarians should be out there trying to do stuff like this, trying to debate people. Everyone on the right should be out there trying to talk to people. And it's like, how else are we going to get through this? It's tough to just vote for the right guy, because even the right guy will get in there and do the wrong things. And so what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to change hearts and minds. You got to go out there and talk to everyone. That's what we try to do. Like, we don't have a massive audience or anything, but just a few people, we can change their minds on something, and then they can go and change other people's minds on something. They can talk to their families, and their families can talk to their friends. And you make those changes in your society by being as polite and respectful and explaining things in the way that you can, using facts and logic, and hope that they listen. And he was out there doing that thing. And it's like, well, what else are we supposed to do? Someone tried to kill Trump a couple times. So running for office and trying to become the president, that's dangerous. What if you're just out there trying to talk to people?
Charlie Kirk could have likely been president.
I think that was a high likelihood, honestly.
15, 20 years.
Yeah, I think that was a very high likelihood. He has massive following and massive political organization, tons of college kids, young people who follow him and listen to him. I think that was a high likelihood. And hey, I can't even, as we sit here upset about this, can't even tell you that I would have voted for him. I don't even know. I don't agree with him on a lot of things. I agree with him more than I agree with people on the left. I think that his ideas are overall better than people on the left. But that doesn't change how upsetting this whole thing is. And so,
and then of course the other emotion, along with this deep sadness, is of course anger. I think a lot of people are experiencing that, and there does seem to be a giant void of empathy on, and it's not everyone, so I don't want to group people together, but
it's not only,
but even when you look throughout history of revolutions that have started and other things, in large part, there are people who are willing to use violence to achieve their political agenda. And they'll compare it to all sorts of things, and there's a real lack of empathy for humans. And our entire country was founded on being able to have civil discourse. If you go back and read the founders and the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, and they heavily disagreed with each other in the most eloquent way you could possibly imagine. Mm-hmm. I will say, good sir, from the Commonwealth of Virginia, I respect you.
The honorable.
But that idea ain't worth a velvet painting
of a whale.
Of a whale and a dolphin. And it's there. We were founded on this idea that where words can be exchanged, like, bullets aren't. And it seems as if we're moving towards a place in which that's not the case, and that's extremely dangerous.
Well, that's why the First Amendment is First Amendment. It's the most important. That's how we keep a semi-peaceful civil society. I'm sorry for cutting you off there. I just and that's why the Second Amendment, protect the speech, and then if the speech doesn't work out, well, you got to make sure people have guns, because that's what's going to be next. And yeah. Anyway, cut you off there.
No, it's good. I
do have a video of Charlie Kirk saying something similar to this, in a way. I'm sure you guys have seen all the videos going around, but here's one of them.
I got a question.
Sure. What was your name again? I'm sorry.
I don't think I told you. My name's Mercury.
Nice to meet you.
Why are you here?
Okay, I've been asked that question a lot. First of all, that question should not even have to be asked, but when people stop talking, really bad stuff starts. When marriages stop talking, divorce happens. When civilizations stop talking, civil war ensues. When you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to want to commit violence against that group. What we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have reasonable disagreement where violence is not an option.
You think that's not emotional violence?
How is this? What is emotional violence, by the way? I don't know what that is.
It is harm intentionally perpetrated on another human being that is intentionally targeted at their emotional well-being.
Okay, so feelings mean nothing to me. Isn't why we had the First Amendment to try to push our boundaries and to hear things that might make you mildly uncomfortable?
This doesn't make me mildly uncomfortable.
Does it make you very uncomfortable?
It makes me angry.
Okay. So that's that one's going around right now.
Yeah, in a similar fashion, I think he was saying a similar thing. And I don't necessarily like that the feelings don't matter, because feelings are part of a human experience, but feelings can certainly lie to you. And so there has to be, this is why men and women are supposed to become one. There are strengths and weaknesses to both. And, you have to marry those. You have to put those together because your feelings can lie to you. And so it's not that feelings don't matter, but I think what he was saying there is that when you stop talking to people, you can easily turn violent. And that happens everywhere. And it obviously happened yesterday. And I think the Wall Street Journal, you sent me the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, maybe the ammo had some,
that's
trans things on it.
That's something that if you want to go into talking about the shooter here, they have, by the way, released a photo of the shooter. I think it's a media program. We're supposed to say alleged shooter. But this is the suspect that they are currently looking for. That's the person. They originally came out this morning in the press conference and said that they weren't going to release the photo or video, which, by the way, I saw a lot of people going quickly into theories on that, like, oh, why aren't you going to release the video of the person who did this? And the answer is because if you release it and they see that you're onto them, or one of their friends or family members sees that you're onto them, they could take new evasive measures that you're not ready for, or that they weren't already planning on doing. That is the actual answer for why they would not immediately let that person know that this is who they're looking for. So they try to see, like, okay, can we, through facial recognition or whatever, can we get an ID on this guy? And I think eventually what it looks like is they're like, no, we can't, for whatever reason. They don't have an ID on the person yet. So let's put it out there on social media. X is really good at finding out who people are. And so and
TikTok.
They release, all of them are really good. Social media is really good at figuring out who people are. And so they put that out there. Before we get into the shooter, I just want to say, let's see, a couple things here. Trump was doing a 9/11 ceremony thing, and he announced that Charlie Kirk would be getting the Medal of Freedom posthumously. I wanted to play this 45-second clip before we get into all the other stuff.
Charlie was a giant of his generation, a champion of liberty, and an inspiration to millions and millions of people. Our prayers are with his wonderful wife, Eric, and his beautiful children. Fantastic people they are. We miss him greatly, yet I have no doubt that Charlie's voice and the courage he put into the hearts of countless people, especially young people, will live on. I'm pleased to announce that I will soon be awarding Charlie Kirk posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The date of the ceremony will be announced, and I can only guarantee you one thing, that we will have a very big crowd.
The biggest. So that's nice. We got that.
That right there, God, it makes me emotional again. And I do think it's our obligation and duty to carry on Charlie Kirk's legacy in the realm of nonviolent civil discourse and championing truth. And this reminds me of, as a believer, it reminds me of that there is a spiritual warfare, so to speak. And when you are preaching truth, so to speak, then, that will be met with evil. And I really think that this is truly an evil act. And, my hope is that we don't devolve from this. And I see it on both sides. You have some folks on the left celebrating this act of violence. You have some folks on the right saying, this is enough. This means war. You've radicalized me.
Yeah.
And Yeah, that's how you devolve as a society, and that's the exact opposite of what Charlie Kirk wanted or would want.
This is going to radicalize a lot of people, just naturally. There's a lot of young people who've grown up, going through the TPUSA college chapters, and there's a lot of people on the right that listen to him, and even people who don't listen to him all the time. Like, this is going to happen. This is I don't want to overstate it or anything, but many people have made the comparison. Like, this is a Martin Luther King Jr. type moment for this generation. Doesn't mean that Charlie Kirk was Martin Luther King Jr. or anything like that. But politics, the structure of our government and our society and our culture are very important things. And so I think this is going to be a thing for a bit. I would be surprised if nothing bad happens in response to this. I hope that it's the case. I hope I am surprised and that nothing bad happens in response to this. But everyone just has to ask yourself, like, I mean, when it comes to those kind of things, just play it out. I'm not one of these who says, violence is never the answer. Political violence is never the answer. And I feel like I can't say that because if the founders of our country believed that, then we'd still have a king right now. And so I can't say that that's a 100% ironclad principle that I have to live by. But, you have to play it out. Like, one person kills Charlie Kirk, someone else kills the left's version of Charlie Kirk. I don't know who that would be. And you just get one back and forth. Like, what improves from that? Unless you're actually planning on going all the way through a civil war.
You just create more terrorists.
And that the right side is going to win this civil war, and that the country is going to be freer than it is right now after that civil war, and better for your children and everything. Like, honestly, if you play it out, it's probably not going to be the case. It just probably isn't going to be the case. So everyone the left has to play this out. I never understand, honestly. And we don't know who the shooter is. We don't know exactly all the motivations. We don't know exactly if they're a patsy, were they paid by someone? Is there another government involved? Is there something like that? Like, I'll entertain all that stuff. The truth is, we don't know right now. When it comes down to like lone wolf, political extremists, terrorist stuff like that, I never understand where their thinking is. Like, Charlie Kirk and other people on the right have been arguing that trans people should have guns restricted. Okay. The word on the street is right now that this ammo that was recovered had trans ideology, anti-fascist ideology things written on the casings, I guess. And okay,
there would only be one.
Yeah, there's only one. There's only one shot. I guess
unless they left rounds behind.
I believe they said bolt action, and I saw some other. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit confused on exactly what the gun was at this point. Anyhow, that's the word on the street right now. And okay, so play that out. Do you think there's going to be less calls for restricting people's guns if that is in fact the case, that there's a trans activist or trans Tifa shooter that takes out someone like Charlie Kirk? Like, everyone just has to look, what's the next step? Play a little bit of chess here. Think a little bit ahead. What do you think the next step is? And same thing when it goes with the right. I always go back to January 6th in our show that we did that day. We're like, what do you think is going to happen from this? What are you doing? Do you think there's going to be more freedoms after this? Is that what's going to happen? You're going to go in there and with someone to take over the U.S. government, there's going to be more freedom afterwards for everyone? Like, the people never think to the next step. And that's why that stuff really never makes sense to me, which is why typically I think people who do this have some kind of mental deficiency, probably. That's why they would actually do that kind of thing. I've got stuff about the shooter here. I don't know if you want to play it. What do you want to do?
Well, before we get there, I do want to say I saw several videos. Charlie Kirk's Bible verse one of his favorites happens to be my favorite, which is Romans 8:28. That states that all things work together for good for those that love Christ and are called according to his purpose. So I don't know what that is right now. No one knows what that is right now, but I think Charlie would even say of his own death that for whatever reason, this was part of God's plan for his life, and that something good for the kingdom will come of this. And maybe that's more people, turning to Christ for his martyrdom, as we obviously saw during the days of the early church, with every single disciple eventually becoming a martyr for their beliefs. And, obviously God's own son being the innocent one hung to a cross. And so I don't know what is going to come of this, and it doesn't mean that if we devolve into political violence that's not the plan, so to speak. But at the same time, I do believe that same thing, that all things work together for the good. And, maybe Jesus called him home because things were about to get way worse. and this was the best way of doing it. I don't know why God allows these things to happen. Why does he allow children to get murdered in school and natural disasters and all sorts of things? I also saw a video of Charlie explaining that, those are hard questions for us to answer. But we know a God exists because we know a level of morality that transcends humans. Otherwise, what would be the point? Why would we have these feelings? So I don't know what comes from this. I obviously hope they find the shooter and bring that person to justice. I hope that there's more security, as I think there will be at these types of events. Same as I hope for school. And I've even had some people I know on the left reach out to me saying, oh, how ironic, the guy who said that it's worth, some bloodshed to keep our God-given right to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
How ironic that he gets taken out by a gun. And I'm like, where's your empathy, man? And I do think that, and I agree with Magoo here from the Fed Haters Club. It's not a people. There are individuals who subscribe to the extreme leftist ideology that are devoid of empathy and are willing to use violence to achieve their political agenda. We've seen that throughout history. We see that in America, and that's also true on the extreme right. People at the extremes are willing to use violence to achieve their agendas. And it's not that in this particular case, it's not that ideology necessarily cares about children. They don't even like children. They would use children to achieve their political goals.
I would say, by the way, when you're talking about the ideologies, it's not just those left and some on the right and all that. Those ideologies require violence, and that's why you see so much violence. It's a prerequisite for some of these ideologies. Any ideology where you're going to even something as simple as forcefully take something from one person so you can give it to another, your ideology requires violence. And inherently, you have to believe in the use of force, in the use of violence to achieve your political goals. If you don't believe in the use of violence to achieve your political goals, then you cannot be a leftist. It's not possible, in my opinion. You have to believe in violence.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
so
true.
that's why you see so much of it. And that's why we're going to see, hopefully we're not going to see a lot more of it, but we're going to continue to see things like this, I think. And one thing to remember, when we're looking at solutions to this problem, what are we going to do? Sorry to beat a dead horse here, but the libertarian dead horse here, but the issue, like, why would you kill someone who's speaking about politics at a college campus? It's because it feels even wrong to say it right now. It's so cliche. It's because the government has too much power over everyone. It's a weapon that people are scared as hell of what the other person's going to do when they get the power over that weapon. It does way too many things. It has way too many effects in our daily lives. It takes way too much from us. It wastes so many of our resources. Its tentacles reach everywhere, and everything that you see in the room that you're in right now has been affected. And both major sides, left and right, are fighting over the use of that power and fighting over the fear of what the other person will do with it. And so if you want to have less of that fear of what the other person's going to do with it, you got to take away the power. You got to at least decrease the power a whole hell of a lot. That's like one of the only answers I know.
And then what would you be fighting over?
Yeah, like, why would I kill that guy because he says that he believes this thing when that thing is not going to be imposed on me, through by force, whatever the thing might be. And I'm not just talking about Charlie Kirk. I'm just using the general example here. Why would I hate that person so much when what they're saying doesn't, like, how is that going to affect me? But now, because the government can almost do anything, things that people say and believe can eventually become executive orders or laws or Supreme Court cases, regulations, any of that stuff. So it's dangerous. It's more dangerous than it should be to have political opinions when those political opinions can hurt people or affect their lives.
And also, I think the leftist ideology sees it as taking out someone like Hitler. The cliche question of, if you met Hitler as a baby, would you kill him so you could prevent the atrocities? It's almost like they see that as the game with some of these figures, and taking out Charlie Kirk or Trump or whoever is equivalent to, killing Hitler as a baby to prevent the atrocities. And that's just, that's why we have the principle of innocent until guilty. And obviously, when you're
until proven guilty.
And obviously, if you're proven guilty, then justice should be swift. But you can't, the rhetoric that plays out in the extremes of the arena that embolden people to take extreme steps is something that has to change, or we will devolve, as many societies have done.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other, I think I hit on this previously, but that's the other reason why this feels so sad, is that, as we just played in the video, that was the number one thing that Charlie Kirk was doing, was to prevent that. You know, you literally, like, you took out the guy who was trying to keep our society from devolving into a civil war. That was one of his entire goals.
Mm-hmm.
And he was ambitious enough to really make waves in that regard. And, yeah, I don't know. My mind starts to go blank because it's just hard to, it's hard to process and talk about it at the same time.
That's fine. We're just keeping it real right now. That's fine. Charlie, I'll ask you, a lot of people are wanting the public execution of the person who did this. It'd be the best thing possible for the nation.
No. We're gonna have him build his own cross and carry it through the streets, like as a deterrent. No, this guy should get a fair trial, like anyone else. He should be presumed innocent. Charlie Kirk would want that in his own death.
A fair trial, yeah.
Yeah, he would want a fair.
I would imagine he supports the death penalty, but supported.
Yeah.
I don't know that actually, but I would assume. So yeah, same thing. And that's a becoming more and more unpopular opinion these days, is to be against the death penalty. You know, you had that murder of the Ukrainian refugee caught on video, and there's a viral post going around like, give me one, you know, I can't remember the post. It says something like, why don't we execute this person tomorrow? Like, what are we doing? You know, because that's not what we do. Like, even, yeah, sure, it might be this guy this time, but what about when it's not that guy? Or what about when they tell you it's that guy, but they execute someone else? Or what about, yeah, you have to protect the I guess the rights of even the worst of the worst people, in order to protect the rights of the the worst people. I will say though, like, I support the question of the person who did this, do they deserve to die? Yeah. I'm fine with it. I'm totally fine with it. And but I don't support the government doing that or deciding that they can do that. I do support, however, the government identifying this person and proving his guilt and then releasing him out into the public, giving everyone 1 week's notice before they do it.
I'll tell you someone who would disagree with him deserving to die.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I know.
And I know that's hard for some people to swallow because, of course, our human nature is an eye for an eye. But Jesus was radical, coming back, telling people that you should forgive 70 times 7. And that was just so it's hard for people to swallow that. And I think some people in the Fed Haters Club are saying that you would embolden the left by not punishing the person appropriately. I don't think so. I disagree with that notion, on the essence that if you just do what is right, which this guy should obviously be punished. I'm not saying that. There should be justice. It's not like God wasn't justice and mercy. But we shouldn't, and this is something I teach my son, you shouldn't stoop to the level of other individuals, because all you're doing is actually emboldening them when you do that. If you stoop to their level, you are agreeing with their position in the first place. You have to rise above that. You have to, as hard as it is, you have to transcend that natural desire the natural human desire. And you can embolden your own position by doing what is right, what is truthful. And I wouldn't see that as a good thing, to bring out the guillotine or hang him in public or put him in front of a firing squad. Like, that's not, I don't see that as a good thing. Obviously, once proven guilty, should be put in prison for life. And that's my take on it. I know a lot of people probably won't agree with me on that.
How about some prison justice, at least? You know?
I'm not saying I would be angry about that. If God uses other people for his vengeance, sure. I just don't think you should.
Yeah.
I don't agree with consciously choosing that.
Yeah.
But God does say, hey, vengeance is mine.
So, I think probably we're not going to get into all of the factual happenings and what we know today, which is fine, because it's the day after, and most of the time you don't have a clear picture yet of what happened. All of you who are listening have scrolled social media enough to know everything that we would present to you in the first place. And you're going to have plenty of other opportunities to hear people talk about, you can watch the news and hear a play-by-play of things that happened. I don't think we have to give that to you. Tomorrow's Friday, which means it's Stumbling of the Week. And I think I know the winner. But I think we could take that opportunity to go through many of the ridiculous things we've seen from, yes, mostly the left and Democrats and a lot of people in the media, crazy trolls on Reddit. TikTok is crazy. I took a screenshot last night, actually. And it's pretty crazy how these things push certain things to you. Like our recommended, or you may like, what the first one was Kirk's wife reaction. You may like recommended topic to suggest to click on. And the next one was headshot. The two top things that TikTok suggested I click on to scroll videos for when I got on there last night. So that's something. So there's gonna be plenty of things to talk about. There are plenty of theories right now. I love theories. They're great. We should entertain them. You can't rule anything out. That's sort of our thing that we do here. But what we don't do is say that we know it was a specific thing, or that it's this is clearly the most likely thing. I might not have the evidence, but when you look at everything, this seems to be what it is. We typically don't do that very much. There are some pretty crazy takes I've seen so far on this whole thing, and we can do that tomorrow. We don't need to do it today. I do have, however, a 5-minute video, Charlie, I didn't tell you about beforehand, that I actually, when we're fully done, when you're good with being done, that we can end the show with. We're not going to talk after the video. Faith Haters Club, if you need to go, you can go. People listening right now, if you don't want to listen to the video, you don't have to listen to the video. We're not going to talk afterwards. You can stick around for the ads after we don't want to. We don't put them in there. They're just automatic, I'm going to play the video that Glenn Greenwald posted, and I hadn't seen this before, and maybe some of you had. This is RFK Sr. Talking to his campaign workers and staff and people at an event. Many of them were black, and he gave them the news that Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated. And then he gave a little speech afterwards. And if you exchange words like white or black with Republican or Democrat or left or right or whatever, and leave in the idea of white or black in there too for other times, it's a good speech. But if you got anything,
I was just going to read, before you play that, I'll just read what Turning Point USA had posted on Instagram last night. I think this sums it up pretty well. So obviously you all know, but it is with a heavy heart, if you haven't seen this, it is with a heavy heart that we confirm that Charles James Kirk has been murdered by a gunshot that took place during Turning Point USA's The American Comeback Tour campus event at Utah Valley University on September 10th, 2025. May he be received into the merciful arms of our loving Savior who suffered and died for Charlie. We ask that everyone keep his family and loved ones in your prayers. We ask that you please respect their privacy and dignity at this time.
good stuff. Thank you for making sure that we did that. I didn't have that pulled up. Let's see, just like I didn't have this ready to go. Thank you for hanging out with us, everyone. We're gonna play this video, and then we'll be done after the video is finished.
Do they know about Martin Luther King? Could you lower those signs, please? I have some very sad news for all of you, and that is that Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight in Memphis. Martin Luther King dedicated his life to love and to justice between fellow human beings. He died in the cause of that effort. In this difficult day, in this difficult time for the United States, it's perhaps well to ask what kind of a nation we are and what direction we want to move in. For those of you who are black, considering the evidence evidently is that there were white people who were responsible, you can be filled with bitterness and with hatred and a desire for revenge. We can move in that direction as a country, in greater polarization, black people amongst blacks and white amongst whites, filled with hatred toward one another. Or we can make an effort, as Martin Luther King did, to understand and to comprehend and replace that violence, that stain of bloodshed that is spread across our land, with an effort to understand compassion and love. For those of you who are black and are tempted to be filled with hatred and mistrust of the injustice of such an act against all white people, I would only say that I can also feel in my own heart the same kind of feeling. I had a member of my family killed, but he was killed by a white man. But we have to make an effort in the United States. We have to make an effort to understand, to get beyond or go beyond these rather difficult times. My favorite poem, my favorite poet was Aeschylus. And he once wrote, "Even in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart, until in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God." What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another, feeling of justice toward those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or whether they be black. We can do well in this country. We will have difficult times. We've had difficult times in the past, but we will have difficult times in the future. It is not the end of violence. It is not the end of lawlessness, and it's not the end of disorder. But the vast majority of white people and the vast majority of black people in this country want to live together, want to improve the quality of our life, and want justice for all human beings that abide in our land. And dedicate ourselves to what the Greeks wrote so many years ago, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. Let us dedicate ourselves to that and say a prayer for our country and for our people. Thank you very much.